Hola chicos, mi nombre es Erasmo Arturo Montalbán, soy de Honduras y brasilero, but now I live in the United States and I've worked in education for nearly 15 years as a teacher, as a principal, and as a consultant. I have lived and worked in Washington, D.C., in Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, Latin America.
Bueno, hola a todos y todas. Mi nombre es Jacinta. Yo soy docente de escuela media también, profesora en el área de las ciencias naturales en un cole en Las Tunas de Pacheco, pero también trabajo en un grupo de investigación en la cátedra de botánica, todo lo que es estudio de plantas, de la Facultad de Agronomía de la Universidad de Buenos Aires.
Soy Tomás La Vega, tengo 29 años, actualmente estoy jugando al rugby profesional en Estados Unidos. Tuve la suerte de jugar 10 años en la primera de mi club en Cuba, ser capitán, y también tuve el honor de jugar varios partidos para los Pumas en la selección nacional.
Hello there, my name is Francisco Bastita. I'm a teacher and a researcher today, but I also hold a master's degree in journalism and I worked at a local newspaper for some time. And I'm here to talk to you about the importance of communication for humanity.
Me llamo Mark y les voy a hablar un poco de mi trabajo en las Naciones Unidas. Yo no soy argentino, pero tengo mucha conexión con la Argentina, porque mi padre nació ahí, mi abuelo, mi bisabuelo, todos nacieron en la Argentina, pero yo no. Yo nací en Sudáfrica y tengo pasaporte británico, pero en realidad yo no soy de ninguna parte. Yo me siento ciudadano del mundo. That's been my life. I don't really have a country, but I found a natural home in the United Nations.
The present pandemics has shown us the enormous power of information. It is a power to manipulate, to conceal the truth, but it is also a power to collaborate and to face adversity together. At a deeper level, however, I think communication may be a sharing from the heart. And this sharing leads to mutual belonging. And it can foster equality, openness, diversity. It may transcend boundaries of fear, rejection and violence. It may be the power to make us one.
Para mí el deporte es muy importante para la humanidad y para el ser humano, principalmente porque además de poder desarrollarte y crecer en la disciplina que cada uno elija, creo que te permite desarrollarte y crecer como persona con todos los valores que el deporte transmite en sus distintas modalidades: el esfuerzo, la humildad, el sacrificio, la superación, el compañerismo. Y también además de esto creo que es una oportunidad muy linda que tenemos todos de poder salir a compartir con amigos, sea un deporte en equipo o con uno mismo, si sale a correr o andar en bici o lo que cada uno elija, de despejar la cabeza, de despejar la mente, de distendernos, de compartir, que tan necesario es para nuestro día a día.
Hi everyone, my name is Sofia and I've been working in NGOs or non-profit organizations for the past 6 years. I've been working in Armenia, in France and in Uruguay.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Bueno, me pidieron que explique por qué la tradición, la cultura y la identidad son importantes para la historia de la humanidad. Pero qué pregunta. Para un filósofo, ¿no? Para un chabón que hace videitos de cheto con su web.
El acceso a agua segura es uno de los objetivos del desarrollo sustentable. El no acceso a agua segura a nivel mundial es la primer causa de muerte a nivel mundial. Hay tantas aguas como hay de mamíferos. El agua es un mundo muy diverso y es importante estudiarlo porque hay diferentes cosas adentro del agua que pueden afectar de diferente manera la salud humana. La vida, así como tal como la conocemos nosotros, comenzó en un entorno acuático, ¿no? Yo trabajo especialmente enfocándome en una de las problemáticas que hay en las aguas de nuestro país, que es la presencia de arsénico. En nuestro país hay arsénico en las aguas subterráneas. Entonces, aquellas personas que consumen agua de pozo tenga concentraciones de arsénico nocivas para la salud humana. Y a veces esa es una problemática que no es muy conocida, no es muy difundida porque es difícil solucionarla. Yo trabajo buscando eso y en particular hago foco tratando de retirar, remover, sanear el arsénico del agua utilizando una caña de bambú nativo de nuestro país, que en este momento un residuo de esa caña, yo utilizo ese descarte, realizo biocarbón y le hago un procedimiento y con ese biocarbón trato de ver cómo se comporta removiendo, secuestrando el arsénico del agua y tratando de proveer o buscar formas de acercarle a la gente agua segura para beber.
Unfortunately, I've also seen poverty and inequality. I wanted to share a quick story about my father. He was born in Honduras in this mountain called El Pedregal, and when he was 13 years old, he wore his first pair of shoes. They were not Nikes. When I was 13 years old, I was in Chicago in Michael Jordan's restaurant watching Brazil beat the United States in the 1994 World Cup. When my dad was your age, about 15 or so, the big problem, the big divide in society was whether or not you could read. Today, our big problem, our big challenge is the digital divide, is whether or not you have access to the internet. It's whether or not you are literate in computer skills. And so I beg you, my friends in Argentina, to think of innovative ways, to think of solutions that are going to challenge the status quo, that are going to disrupt and help all of us have access to education and have access to an opportunity in life.
I asked myself several times, how is it that in 2020 we still haven't got that right? How is it that in 2020 we still are not able to guarantee every human being on the planet their access to human rights? When I was younger, I used to think that human rights violations was something that happened in North Korea or in other authoritarian governments that were far from Uruguay, where I'm from. I realized how important it is to make sure that everyone knows what they're entitled to, and nobody thinks that they don't have the capacity to fight for their rights just because of their color of their skin, of their socioeconomic status, of their religion. And I started realizing about these micro violations that are actually happening in our everyday lives and everywhere. That's why I do what I do, and that's why I work with nonprofit organizations. And I try to do my best to help more people have access to all their rights and make sure that they have the opportunities that they deserve, just for the fact that they're human beings like we are all.
How did I get there? Well, when I was young, I wanted to travel the world. I started by hitchhiking all around South America. I visited every country in South America. And then I wanted to continue my travels, but I didn't have any money. So I went to the port in Buenos Aires and I found a ship that was willing to take me on a journey as long as I worked as a sailor. And the ship was going to Jordan. So I went on this journey to Jordan and I landed up in Africa. And I worked first in Sudan. And that's where I had my first job as a humanitarian. I worked in a refugee camp on the Chadian border when I was in my early 20s. And since then, I've worked in many countries. For 7 years, I worked for a number of different humanitarian organizations. And then eventually, I got my first job in the United Nations when I was 31 years old. And that job was in Sarajevo, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Almost my entire life, I've been working in war zones. And at the moment, I'm in charge of our humanitarian operation in the rebel-held parts of Syria. Some of you may have heard of Idlib in the northwest of Syria. In many ways, this is the most dangerous place in the world today. And our job in the United Nations is to get food and shelter and medical supplies and other assistance to these people, some of the most vulnerable people on the planet. Well, I think the main lesson that I've learned is that we should never turn our backs on people who are less fortunate than ourselves. We need to remember our common humanity. Second, we should never ignore situations of injustice and inequality. We should not look away when we see gross human rights abuses, because today's human rights abuses very often become tomorrow's wars. We need a world in which all people can live with full respect for their rights. So as you all set out in your lives, I wish you luck as you choose your own path. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter, and please do send me your feedback. I'd love to hear from you.
Pero bueno, no importa, voy a hacer lo que puedo. Yo como artista creo que tenemos que mirar lo que está pasando hoy con el coronavirus. Estamos todos encerrados en nuestras casas y el valor que toma de repente lo artístico, el entretenimiento que genera la cultura es fundamental. Y ahí te das cuenta lo importante que es esencial que es para la vida del hombre. Te fijaste que, no sé, de las cavernas, los chabones que hacían en la época de las cuevas, estaban en la cueva, salían a cazar, comían y después pintaban la pared. La cultura está ahí, el momento uno. Hoy la cultura te da mucha creatividad y la creatividad la puedes usar en todos los aspectos de la vida. Fede y Felipe tienen que ser creativos para inventar una clase copada, para que ustedes les presten atención, que tienen una edad que todo les chupa un huevo. Se puede putear en este video, perdón, ponerle un pip o cortar esa parte. Para todos se necesita la creatividad y eso lo ejercita la mente a través de la cultura.